A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
Well, a child's happiness is priceless, right? Especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on their birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially when it comes to their birthday.
Absolutely.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
Well, a child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's smile is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
You know, a child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. You like that?
In consumer news, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take some of the spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take the spring out of the step of the Easter Bunny this year. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
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 Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Did I say that right?
Yeah, say it right.
Yeah, baby.
Talk show host Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be able to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television. Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on his late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope once again on late-night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien is looking to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be preparing to push the late-night envelope.
And welcome back to the show. I scream, you scream. You know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream,
Well, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, we all, well, you know the rest.
Got it. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, we all know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, we all know the rest of it, right? I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, and you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
Well, I scream, you scream, well, I think you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, and everybody knows the rest.
I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, and you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I don't find that funny. I find it scary.
Each person in here is motivating the next person next to them to know that we're like-minded, right? I pass out flyers every single day since I committed my life to Chemtrails 2 years ago. Every day I get a flyer in someone's hands, okay? And I'm coming to this comprehension about the group psychology of things. And I go up to a group of people, and if I hand the flyer to that group of people, some of those people might make fun of me. Some of those people haven't heard of anything, but if one of those people says, oh, I want that, I know about chemtrails, it's validated it for the group. And now some random person on the street can't validate it for them, but now that their friend has validated that something is actually going on, so your presence here, it's encouraging for everyone else, you know what I mean? And then you tell your friends and all that stuff, but just the fact that this room is full, you could have come and it been empty and you wouldn't feel the same way, like you're not alone. There's a lot of people, and you'd be shocked how many people know about it and think that they're alone because the media makes fun of them and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? So first off, I want to talk about this image. I made this collage. I turned my follow button on Facebook on November 1st last year. I started getting all these chemtrail people that they really want someone, everybody wants someone to really just take the lead and do the damn thing. So here I am, right? But the deal is I got this image, and I put it up on Facebook. This thing, I put with it, okay, sorry, let me take a deep breath, okay? All right, there's so many slides, right? But you guys are here to hear this, and I shouldn't go too fast. So I've got a nice social media aggressive campaign. I have a bachelor's degree in marketing and management. I've got a master's degree in business. I think I've got this social media thing kind of down a little bit. I made this collage. I put it up on my Facebook with the words, does this look like a theory to you? Capital Y-O-U question mark, okay? Not script over the image, but this image with the words, does this look like a theory to you? It had 1,000 shares in 10 minutes. 1,000 shares, not 1,000 likes, 1,000 shares, okay? Because people were like, does this look like a theory to you? Share, yeah, does it? And it's easier for them to share someone else saying it, you know, because a lot of people get shit on by their friends because this is all like a conspiracy theory, right? But we're not alone, and that's the thing. And the thing is the truth, first it'll piss you off, but then it'll set you free, and you'll stop caring what your friends even think, you know what I mean? But what happened is I went along my day thinking, oh man, I can't wait to get back on the computer and see what this thing did. I get back on my computer, and it's got 1,001 shares. This is the next day, okay? In 10 minutes, it got 1,000 shares. So the next day, it's got 1,001 shares, and I'm like, huh, weird. Okay, well, that wasn't what I expected at all. And then I look at my messages, and 3 people had messaged me, why did you take that image down? I shared it. And I go back on my timeline, it's still there, 1,001 shares, right? So it's like, honest to God, I've got 15,000 people who are like, go Matt, chemtrails, they suck. I think it would literally be 10 times that if Facebook even let these things get out there. Like, there's a lot of people that care, okay? So I want that to be recognized. So I like to start these presentations with a little bit about myself because I think it's good for people to understand that I'm just a normal guy. I grew up in DC. I went to Virginia Tech because going to school was, what you're supposed to do. After getting in the mortgage industry and real estate and finance and the restaurant industry, I ended up in LA aspiring to be a filmmaker. Then I'm in San Diego, and that dream was still there. So finally, after a handful more jobs in management and finance and the stock market and Wall Street and financial analytics and statistical analytics, I moved to Northern California, where I went to California State of Humboldt, and I got an MBA, graduated top of my class, Master's in Business Administration with a focus in strategic sustainability, and I also finally went to film school there then. And I learned about 16mm film, and I learned that I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker, and I still got out and worked in finance a little longer, and then finally I wanted to get grounded, and I worked in an organic farm where I grew potatoes and squash, and I literally learned more than I'd learned in all that other bullshit, which was crazy. So I learned, for one, I didn't know if you put a potato in the ground that it grew potatoes. I was 35 years old, I didn't know that a potato in the ground grew potatoes, which is wild. Maybe I was 32, pardon me. But I woke up to chemtrails, which is really important. Okay, this is where I'm going. I was out on this farm in Northern California, okay, and where I'm at on the coast of Northern California is what's deemed the mouth of the atmospheric river. It's this jet stream, okay? The jet stream is like literally a stream. And these clouds are even referred to as lakes sometimes, which is interesting when they're making the lakes drop the rain. They refer to them as lakes and streams. So the jet stream, traditionally, it pulls this moisture off the Pacific Ocean, and the mouth of the atmospheric river comes across the transcontinental United States, and it begins at this area just north of San Francisco, all the way up to about Seattle. This whole area gets their deluge of moisture annually, okay? The moisture comes through around November 1st and lasts for 4 months. You know about it. It's already started to rain here. So in Eureka, where we're at, we're in Eugene, Oregon, where we're at, okay? This was in Eureka. So what I witnessed was, on the edge of our big storm system, Farmer Paul comes out and he says, start harvesting those pumpkins, Matt. We got a big storm coming. We don't want everything to rot in the rain, okay? So I'm out there harvesting pumpkins, and the big storm comes, and I literally even witnessed salamanders and frogs, amphibious creatures coming out ready for this big storm. The weatherman calls for the weather person calls for 100% chance of rain for the next week. I look on the Doppler radar, because my farmer, Paul, he's got the Doppler. We got a big, huge storm, big black clouds. I'm seeing them. On the edge of this storm, 20 planes come, and they grid the sky, okay? And I like to say, well, I've got this statistics background. I can see a statistical anomaly, because this was a statistical anomaly, but anybody can really see this. But my background is I can chart this out and tell you that on the days previous, there were only 3 planes flying by all day long. And on this day, on the edge of a huge storm pattern, on a lot of moisture coming in, we had 20 planes in the sky, and they were leaving persistent linear cirrus cloud formations. Whereas the month previous, there were no lines in the sky, but here I've got a grid of persistent linear cirrus cloud formations coming out of the back of these planes, okay? I thought nothing of it, and that's the thing. People have this cognitive dissonance. They see it, but they don't really think anything's up. So I have these signs that say, ever wonder why there are lines in the sky? Sometimes is its own sign, because the different upticks in the lines in the sky, where there's none and none and none, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch, to me, that's one of the biggest things. I do this grassroots on the street activism, and when I meet someone who I know doesn't know about chemtrails, I ask them, do you ever wonder about the lines in the sky? And then they're about to say, yeah, the jets. And I say, sometimes. And some of these people, a good percentage of these people, their wheels start spinning, and then their head freaking explodes. And they look at me and they say, what do you mean sometimes? How come they're only sometimes? And I'm like, well, you answer me that. How come they're only sometimes, those lines in the sky? And they're looking around, and because people have this collective database of memories in their head, but they don't comprehend that something is really going on, because it's a big scheme, and anybody who thinks outside the box is demonized, okay? You can take truth as the authority or authority as the truth, right? I like to take truth as the authority, right? And everybody in this room, if you're here, you probably like to do the same. So this storm, before I get off track, the storm has all these lines in the sky leading up to it. The next day, the storm comes. It doesn't drop any rain. We're supposed to get a week of rain, lots of rain. I mean, this big cloud, big black storm that stretched 100 miles. It didn't drop any rain. And I didn't think anything of it, but then again it happened. And then again it happened. And only storms with persistent linear cirrus cloud formations on the edge of them were the storms not dropping rain. Storms without these lines, they drop rain. So then we go into a catastrophic drought. And finally, someone said to me, I was talking about 9/11. This is a little off track. Someone says to me, yeah, 9/11, but you know about chemtrails? Those things are like really obvious. 9/11, you never know what happened. And I go, what's chemtrails? And someone just kind of clicked. You know those lines in the sky? And I go, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it just, it unfolded. And I decided I needed to make a film about it. And then once I started making the film about it, I decided I needed to lead the whole movement because nobody was doing it right, basically. And not that I can do it right. Not that I can do it right, but we needed to have a global annual chemtrail summit. That hadn't occurred, and so I made that happen. We needed a film that was all-encompassing and explained what was going on. I'm almost done with that, Frankenskies. And the presentation that I've been giving, I hope you all like it. Next. Yeah. So what we end up with are these grid patterns in the sky, but they're not always manipulating the weather. But when we can at least identify that there's weather warfare, weather manipulation going on, we can start with at least that is going on. I think it's a multifaceted thing. There's a lot going on in our skies, but if we can narrow it down, especially the people that are new, and tell them, well, at least we know they're controlling the weather, I know this because of X, Y, Z, then we have a foundation to build on. Okay, so like I said, there's no trusted news source. We saw these clips earlier. The news sources globally, okay, not to mention nationwide, but globally, they're all handed the same script, okay? And I don't want to get off topic, but I like to talk to people about 9/11 sometimes because the BBC, they reported that Building 7 in New York, this third building that fell in New York that day, it was a surprise that this building had fallen, and they reported it 20 minutes early. They read their script, and the building was standing behind her. This is surprise, surprise. So that's a really interesting point when people talk about, but I trust the media. Don't you know Fox really gives me the news? No. It's 6 companies now. So 1983, we've got 50 companies. In 2012, 6 companies. That's just a conglomeration now. We've got 6 companies. If you look at the families that have the ownership in here, it's all the same people, okay? And if you think about the corporatization of America and the powers that they play, here we are. We're in 2016, and it seems like that there's been a couple decades of these lines in the sky, okay? Before a couple decades ago, these lines weren't there. Now, it seems like people have started to talk about this, and evidently, the scientific community wanted to set the record straight, okay? Now keep in mind, the media is controlled. They hand their scripts out. The media is given the scripts to read, okay? There's a Conan O'Brien bit that talks about gas prices are on the rise. What they're doing in those media outreaches that are all the same is they're telling you what to think, okay? They're not giving you information, they're telling you how to think about something. So when they tell you gas prices are on the rise, you better spend your money more, they're telling you to spend your money on gas. You know, it's a very manipulated thing. So here we have a study done by the Carnegie Institute, okay? The Carnegie Institute is none other than David Keith, okay? This David Keith character, we just watched a video on him, but we'll talk about him further. He's the one making the money off of the research, making the money off of the geoengineering that is now ongoing, and he's the one that's really going to get paid if they try to block out the sun. Block out the sun. So here we have a paper that surveyed 500 scientists. Of all those scientists, 77 scientists responded, and according to these surveys, 76 out of 77 scientists say that chemtrails are not real, okay? The media focused on this and picked it up, and ran it to the people in a very precise way. And I'm going to explain this. And it's very manipulative, and it's very much a target on the masses. And once you get to my position and you can see through all the BS, it's very interesting and humorous, okay? But it's very diabolical if you really look at what they're doing and how they're trying to manipulate everyone around us to think in a certain way. This is from Forbes magazine and the Washington Post, okay? Now, this paper comes out, right, that is by David Keith, and actually we're going to talk about the other authors of the paper, but these people are all biased and all win if we decide to block out the sun for some reason. But the media picks this up, and we've got the Washington Post and Forbes magazine telling us, scientists tell the world chemtrails are not real. They've got pictures of the chemtrails, okay? But these major publications are telling us that there's nothing to see here, okay? One more time? Okay, so this is in just a matter of a couple days. If you look at the dates, this is October 14th, August 14th, August 15th, August 16th, okay? So what I did when I devoted my life to chemtrails is I told Google Alerts to notify me anytime the word geoengineering or chemtrails was used on the internet. These are synonyms, okay? And I started getting articles notifying me that this paper had been released. And on day one, the paper comes out through the University of California, Irvine, and a handful of publications pick it up, the Tech Times and Science 2.0 and these science-y type articles, okay? And I was very aggravated because every time these articles come up, I go and share them with the chemtrail community on Facebook. And I mean, if I get an article that if I get an email that 20 articles have come out, I've got to share 20 things and analyze each one and tell people what's going on. Okay? On day 2, the onslaught had filled my inbox. Okay? On day 3, we're looking at 30, 40 articles. On day 4, it was like a programmed thing. Day 2 was USA Today. Day 3 was Washington Post. Day 4, New York Times. Day 5, Economist. Day 6, it doesn't even matter, but they ran through the gambit, okay? They went from the financial publications through the major media outlets. They even hit things like treehugger.com, okay? And all of these headlines are a tiny little twist on the same thing to manipulate everyone, to tell them that there's nothing to see in the sky, and then showing them the pictures of what they should be looking at in the sky, okay? So airplane, you see it every which way. Chemtrails aren't real, in case you were wondering. Popular Mechanics. And I was wondering, as a matter of fact. Okay? That's the thing. It's not only preemptive programming to people who are just coming on board. They ask Sirius, okay? Siri, what are the lines in the sky? Here's 100 articles telling you that scientists say there's nothing to see there. 76 out of the 77 scientists. 500 surveyed. 76 out of 77 say nothing to see here. One of them, which no one wants to talk about, says, yes, you're getting poisoned. And it was a list of all these questions. And they said, yes, 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 yes. So no one wants to really acknowledge that. But that's still, statistically, if 3% of the scientific community told me that we were getting poisoned by all these lines in the sky, I'd start to think about it. But people saw 76 out of 77. Okay? They don't even mention the 500. Okay? That's a good question. So for 2 weeks, I get these emails coming into my inbox, you know, and at first I'm really aggravated. Then I'm like, I can't wait to put this into my presentation. Then I'm really aggravated. Then I'm like, I can't wait to put this into my film. Then I'm really pissed. And then on the last day, the emails subside, August 24th, 2015, okay? The emails have subsided, and no one's talking about chemtrails aren't real anymore. But this article is in my email. One man's plan to stop global warming by shooting particles into the atmosphere. Okay? This guy, David Keith, he can save us. He has an idea. Okay? So, Keith and others believe humans can mimic a natural phenomenon by launching planes or balloons into the stratosphere, spraying particles up there. Okay? So now that you don't think that chemtrails are real, we have an idea for you. It's called spraying lines in the sky from planes to save us. Okay? Think about this manipulation. It's hilarious, yeah, but it's actually not at all. Okay? But it's good to laugh at it, like, don't get me wrong. So here's the paper, and what we've got is the Carnegie Institute, which is Harvard, which is ran by David Keith, okay? The Carnegie Institute with the geoengineering portion is David Keith. So his name's not directly on this paper, but it's all over this paper, okay? Because he did it, okay? Along with that are a couple other names that I'm not going to talk about and a couple that I am. In particular, Mick West, okay, and Ken Caldera. You can see their names up there in this paper, and they are some of the quantifying experts that put this paper together, that basically were the ones that said, hey, we have to set the record straight, okay? Well, let's think about it. Are these people biased, okay? We have to analyze where this information is coming from and not just read the headline in our Twitter feed and think we've been educated, right? Or whatever feed you want it to be. Okay, so who is Mick West? Okay, because Mick West is one of the names on this paper. He better be a scientist, right? He's not. He's not a scientist at all. He has a website. It's titled MetaBunk, and he will debunk anything, okay? Anything, okay? He's over here debunking 9/11. There's a lot of different stories I hear on 9/11, so we won't go into 9/11 too much, but this guy will debunk anything, probably if you give him enough money. Next. Okay? Mick West, even on his website, goes about his time debunking this bicycle that can create energy, okay? Like, if you go on his site, please don't spend too much time on there, but metabunk.com, metabunk.org, he is the guy that if you put in your Google search, are chemtrails real? Are vaccines bad? What was 9/11? Does this bike produce electricity? Google gives you him the first thing, okay? The media's bought, maybe Google, too, and then you're fed the information that they want you to think. And so this guy, Mick West, he does it all. He even creates memes. And the memes will be demonizing people who think chemtrails are real. So he says, man, the chemtrails got me so crazy I started believing in chemtrails. This is what he does for a living. So why is this guy in charge of the scientific research study that we think is factual because every single media outlet picked it up and said, you're stupid if you think this is real? So who are these guys, David Keith and Ken Caldera? Well, in 2014, they said that they together published a paper together, one of them out of Stanford, one out of Harvard, that they could save us with solar geoengineering to save us from anthropogenic climate change. Anthropogenic is a big word for it's all your fault, okay? It means man-made. And they want you to feel guilty for every bit of carbon you've ever produced in your whole life, every time you've driven a car, because it's all your fault, and now they need to fix your mistake, basically. Okay, this is an article by David Keith, okay? Now, there was an EPA hearing last summer. We had 6 activists speak at this EPA hearing in Washington, D.C. It got no media coverage, okay? The EPA hearing was on jet fuel emissions, okay? We had 6 people there talking about geoengineering, chemtrails, talking about the different chemical components, okay? Patrick Roddy, who I'm featuring in the film Frankenskies, he's out of San Francisco. He has a website, stopsprayingus-sf.com for San Francisco, okay? Very informative. He brings up these rare sundogs. Okay? This is an article talking about geoengineering. It's talking about if we put these different chemicals in the atmosphere, this is what it'll look like. Okay? Because yes, this is what it'll look like. This is not the refractory index of water. When water is hit by sunlight, it refracts and makes a rainbow. It always has, it always will. Okay? These rare sundogs only started appearing in the past couple decades, okay, along with these persistent linear cirrus cloud formations. And when Patrick Roddy speaks about these rare sundogs in his EPA hearing testimony, okay, he talks about the refractory rate of the different chemicals and how barium, one of these chemicals that are used and patented and they're showing up in the rainwater. They're in the patents for the weather manipulation. Barium does this and looks like this, and even when they talk about solar geoengineering and using barium, they say this is what it's going to look like when it's in the sky. So when you look up and you see these rare sundogs, it's the barium, which is highly toxic to humans, and it's in our air, and in our rainwater, and in our soil, okay? So The Economist, this was my trusted news source. When I grew up, not that you need to know that I read this on the toilet, but I would flip it over every single time when I was a young kid and see the back page of The Economist. I thought I was being so educated by knowing the exchange rates and what gold was at. And I started trading stocks when I was 15 years old, reading this publication. I got the Wall Street Journal. Like, I mean, seriously, this is a trusted publication, The Economist, okay? 2015, the end of 2015, November 28th. If all else fails, we have a hypothetical scenario. These lines in the sky, they don't exist now. Don't look up. But man-made global cooling could offset this man-made global warming, all your fault, okay? And it may become necessary because you've warmed the planet. We have a solution if all else fails, okay? Okay, October 18th, 2016. That's 2 days ago. 2 days ago. New York Times. Can humans go from unintended global climate, what does it say? Global warming to climate by design. Okay? Unintended global warming to climate by design. I mean, if you're not really reading the details there, then I don't want to be your friend, okay? Geoengineering is in the wind more and more these days, particularly the use of sun-blocking aerosols. So wait a second. Geoengineering is in the wind more and more these days. Whoa. What are you saying? Like the idea, the concept, or are you spraying us over our heads? Because this is the photo that it looks like that I see when I look up in the sky. You know what I mean? So this is a very, very, very subtle manipulation and brainwashing, but it's right there in your face, hidden in plain sight. But yeah, exactly. So the word chemtrails was derived from chemical trail, and it was created by the government. It's used in, I'll talk about it, it's used in these different government papers, and we're going over all this. These grid patterns especially turned up in 1995. People looking in their family photos, they started seeing these lines in the sky in 95, and not before that, not as much, and especially in the 80s, they weren't there. So what's in a contrail? Well, when jet fuel is efficiently burned by these new engines that they have now that we'll go over a little bit, and I'm interviewing a rocket scientist for my film who says that these new engines, there should be no lines at all. These lines should dissipate in a few seconds, and they're comprised of only these 4 chemicals, these 4 elements: water, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide. Okay? So when these hydrocarbons burn, we should see only hot air. So basically, there's hot air coming out of my mouth, right? Given the perfect atmospheric conditions, even if I'm on Mount Everest, it's going to dissipate. These lines weren't there 30 years ago, and even like on the edge of these storm fronts, and you see all these Great Lakes, this simple jet engine exhaust would not account for such mass to be able to be seen from space. Okay? Now, what happens, I'd like to call your attention to the top left and right image. The right one, it's tearing through the clouds, but the top left one, we'll end up talking about HAARP. And what happens when these aerosols are dispersed is these electromagnetic frequencies are pulsed through them, and then they become evenly distributed because of the frequencies being pulsed through. That's what that is on the top left. So we talked about my cognitive dissonance, and I snapped out of it, you know? And I'm like this certain demographic where I was raised with a bunch of different people, and I've seen a bunch of different things, and like, you know, like I've walked every walk of life, but I've got friends from every walk of life, and even it was hard for me to snap out of it. So imagine somebody in a cookie-cutter perfect life, they have a mental conflict that occurs when their beliefs or assumptions are contradicted by new information, okay? They trust the government, they trust all these things, and if you try to come at them with something so crazy sounding, they just bury their head in the sand, and they will not even look at it. They put on their blinders and move on with their life, okay? This is from psychology researchers. The cognitive dissonance is out of control, but if you really look into it, it's very interesting because sometimes it takes something so little to snap someone out of it, okay? Like I said, having a friend that they trust, that they can recognize, believes the other way, they're not going to listen to some random person on the street as much, but little things can change the way someone thinks. Like for me, I was cognitively dissonant to the whole thing, and my buddy said the word chemtrails, you know, those lines in the sky, and everything just clicked, you know what I mean? So you are way more important and powerful. Your voice is your weapon at this point, you know? So tell a friend. We talked about the satellite photos. We talked about how long they persist. I would be happy. Okay, this PowerPoint, I will pay you to present it $1 for everybody in the crowd. This is my going, like I'm telling the world, present my presentation. Like I'll give you the PowerPoint. You can read it for yourself. I'll modify it. I'll pay you to present it. Okay. The biggest one that I like is the irregular pattern of appearance, okay? We can go over this all day long, but don't tell me the skies have been clear for 2 months and then this grid pattern is normal when it wasn't there before, okay? It doesn't take a statistician or a farmer or a weatherman or any of this to say that this is going on. So, I interviewed Scott Stevens, former meteorologist, climatologist. Actually, I think he got his job back finally. So he's back to being a weatherman, he just told me recently. But either way, Scott Stevens, he worked all over the United States and is trained to be a meteorologist. He was unable to accurately predict the weather, okay? This was about 15 years ago. And he didn't understand why. All of a sudden, his computer models weren't working. He wasn't able to do it. He couldn't predict the weather anymore, and his viewers were asking him what was going on. So he started doing 24-hour time lapses in the sky. 24 hours, a weatherman. And after a year of analyzing and trying to understand what he was missing, he saw these broken lines in the sky, but where there was a broken line, another plane would come in a time lapse. You can see a lot more from a time lapse than you're just walking around and looking at your phone half the time, you know what I'm saying? So like this time lapse of the sky, it showed a plane and then it turned it on and off, so there's a broken line. And someone would say, oh, there's an atmospheric bubble there of non-humidity, okay? So then another plane comes in perfectly perpendicular with their sprayers off, turns them on just to fill in a line in that to make a T, okay? And that was his aha moment. He says, why are these lines interacting with one another? Like the lines, not the air traffic, not the FAA, not the air traffic patterns or whatever. The lines were interacting with one another, and he started looking at it in a whole new perspective. He changed his computer models, and he nailed it, and he could predict the weather again, taking the chemtrails into consideration. Okay? His off-camera activism led to him losing his job. And then he's been all over. He's been in a bunch of movies. I interviewed him, and that video on Facebook has 70,000 hits. This like 5-minute little short that I've got talking to him about him getting upset with it. And so this is actually, the broken lines is actually a neat little point. So we've even got, like some of these slides, sorry the presentation is really long, and there's portions where I wanted to take slides out, but some people, I didn't even realize it, they see the whole thing, and then my buddy, who was a non-believer, my buddy Greg, he came to me, and after the whole presentation, he said, that was the slide. And I was like, oh, really? I was going to delete that one. No, he goes, no, that was the slide. That showed me that it wasn't coming out of the engines. It really made me think. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, you got a good point. You know what I mean? So what is in these chemicals? Okay? Well, come to find out, people have been finding lithium in the air over Oregon, and they're correlating it to chemtrails. I have a friend who's a nurse. This is all speculative, and I know that, but my friend who's a nurse, she says that on days of spraying, that the incidence of suicide attempts and all these lithium-related conditions come into her hospital 20-fold, okay? So it's all speculation, and I'm looking at ways to adequately measure these things, but it seems like Oregon is an experiment to see how they can get the lithium to fall into these valley communities that are in the valleys. I've got articles up there about it, but more importantly and more easily identified, not the lithium, is the strontium, the barium, and the aluminum. The strontium, barium, and aluminum, the strontium, barium, and aluminum, they're in the government patents, which there's thousands of them. And they detail how to create clouds out of the back of jets, and they're coming up in the rainwater, and they're coming up in everything else. So it's kind of too hard to pass up these three chemicals. Like, once you see it, and you see it, and you see it, and then you see that the 1995 is when the trails really started coming in, and then in 1999, a new term is introduced. This term did not exist until 1999, mind you, aerotoxic syndrome. And this is a syndrome where people that are spending a lot of time in airplanes, like flight attendants and pilots, are dying, okay, or getting really ill from exposure to they don't know what. Maybe it's the jet fuel. Okay, there's a whole website, check it out. These are the engines by Boeing, okay? I'm interviewing rocket scientists. They say that the majority of the new planes have these. They don't produce any contrails at all, okay? We're talking about 2 seconds, it dissipates. They're highly effective and efficient. They're new. Lots of people are waking up. Lots of people are getting loud. Some of the people that get loud and wake up are silenced, unfortunately. But it's up to us to keep that flame alive, right? So this gentleman, Ted Gunderson, FBI chief, okay? He was the FBI chief of Dallas and LA, and he was very vocal, created a website, and spent all of his time and energy identifying planes, where they were taking off and landing from, chemicals that were being sprayed. He was talking about this 10 years ago. He was demonized. Supposedly, all of a sudden, he became some child porn person, and then he mysteriously died. So, he can't listen to anything he was saying now. He's dead in child porn, right? Okay? Kylie Jenner is a celebrity. She's a Kardashian. She's 18 years old, okay? I don't buy into all the celebrity stuff that much, but she has more followers on Instagram than anybody on earth, okay? She's got 15 million followers on Twitter. Okay? And on Twitter, she talks about what I like to bring up. Why are some days normal with no planes? Come on, right? She can't spell the word responsible. She is a Kardashian, but she still is bringing up the relevant points, and she's tweeting it to, what did I say, 15 million people? I mean, come on. This is huge, right? All right? So this is important. Go retweet her stuff. Next. Oh, next, you. Sorry, I'm excited. Okay, even Prince. Okay, Prince, may he rest in peace, because of Dick Gregory, a social rights activist, okay, Prince made a song talking about chemtrails. Even Beck and Fish and a lot of bands, a lot of the entertainment is trying to tell us what's going on, songs about chemtrails, but no one's really listening. Not everyone, at least. But it's out there. That's the thing. And we're not alone. So what are these chemtrails for? Well, we kind of can read between the lines, right? The patents explain that they lay them out and it blocks out the sun. We've got these guys going around saying, don't look up, but we're going to block out the sun. So let's back up and see what geoengineering is all about. In 1916, Professor Hatfield was hired to make it rain in San Diego. Okay, we're not told about all these projects of weather manipulation because we think, oh my God, maybe they're doing it now. 1916, this guy went up on a tower. He climbed up on a tower and he thought, if I spray this silver dust, I might be able to make it rain. He busted the dams. It flooded for 4 days because he went up on a tower and sprayed some silver, okay? We're in a catastrophic drought. This guy's making it flood in 1916. Okay, we've got all sorts of different tests using silver iodide to make it rain. It's called cloud seeding. What this is a hydroscopic molecule. It attracts the water molecules. So the silver dust is up here. The water molecules come to it. They get heavy and they fall. Okay? You can do the exact opposite by putting up aluminum. It's a dispersant. The water molecules go to the aluminum. They don't fall because it's dispersed. Okay? Silver makes it rain. Aluminum makes it not rain. They even made it deluge over the Ho Chi Minh Trail during Vietnam, called Project Popeye. Okay? They made it rain to try to mess with their trade route in Vietnam. So the weaponized weather was being manipulated back in the 50s. Okay? In 1950, 6 simulated attacks were conducted upon San Francisco. Okay, 1950, they're spraying biological aerosol agents offshore. Okay, they're spraying biological offshore agents in San Francisco, 1950, to see how much coverage they can get. 1957, they're seeing in Operation LAC, they were seeing how much coverage they could get in 1957 to get these biological agents all over the entire country of the United States. 1962, Project Storm Fury, they started experimenting with aerosols. If you do your research, you'll see that carbon was used to exacerbate the hurricane in Katrina. We've even got people saying that we should use global dimming, global sunscreen. The idea was introduced even in the 80s, okay? So 1973, this is back when we could trust the media. They're saying you might have to get out and vote for your weather, that scientists are taking the weather into their own hands, and you may have the opportunity to vote for your weather in 1973, okay? I'd like to vote today and get rid of the drought. I'd like to see the Sierra Nevadas and the mountains of California have snowpack where there's none. That's what my vote would be now. I'm going to point to you now, sorry. Okay, so after this deluge in the Ho Chi Minh Trail, Project Popeye in Vietnam, in 1974, the world was afraid of the United States and their ability to weaponize the weather. So a weather war ban, in 1974, a treaty was written saying, okay, please, nobody use weather as a weapon because if you mess with something here, downstream, it's going to cause this, and come on, you can't control the weather. 125-0, everyone said yes, okay? They were especially worried about the Soviet Union and the United States. Okay, we got the U.S., they're still talking about this over Indochina, the weather being turned into a weapon of war. Okay, in this 2001, there is a treaty that's signed. It talks about the word chemtrails even in it. Keep hitting it. And this Denis Kucinich, he proposed a ban. One more time. One more time. Okay. This ban on space-age weapons includes the word chemtrails in it. Okay, so this is not just a conspiracy theory. How's everybody doing? We need to stretch or anything? No. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. I'm glad everyone's here. Okay, so things start getting really interesting when you start digging and you come up with these NASA documents, okay? NASA evidently isn't this like trusted news source. Like nothing is to be trusted anymore now that anyone can be bought. I was just on a show the other day talking about the corporatization of science and how every science study can be bought. Okay, Coke and Pepsi, they fund diabetes research. You know, I mean, so we've got NASA, 2025, the future is now. Okay, 2025, the future is now. And in this document, it talks about a mechanized dust, which is distributed by aerosols, inhaled into the lungs, mechanically bores into lung tissue, and executes various pathological missions. NASA, the future is now. Okay? Again, 2025, excuse me. Again, 2025, the U.S. Air Force comes out with this paper in 1995. Okay? 1996, pardon me. So in 1996 is when we start seeing these lines in the sky. 1996, the U.S. Air Force comes out with this paper, Weather as a Force Multiplier, owning the weather by 2025. Okay, again, this goal for weather manipulation by this certain date. Okay? So the U.S. Air Force says they're going to weaponize the weather. They have a date set, even though there's a treaty saying don't weaponize the weather, but the treaty's 40 years old, and they've been weaponizing the weather the whole time, as if the U.S. cares about any treaties that they sign. So we've got President of Iran, Ahmadinejad. He speaks out. He says, hey, I've got a jet stream coming over the Mediterranean. It comes and hits my country, and you're doing the exact same thing in California that you're doing to me, which is causing this crazy drought. Iran saw 172 degrees Fahrenheit this summer, hottest on record. Last summer, they saw hottest on record, okay? There's technologies to heat the atmosphere. There's technologies to cause drought, and Iran is our enemy, okay? And they're accusing us of the weather weaponry. Unfortunately, this weather weaponry is not limited to abroad. Last year, Hurricane Joaquin, okay, it was suspended in animation while the first time ever the term atmospheric river fire hose was created. Okay? And this atmospheric river fire hose, one of a kind, okay, and if you really do some research, this thing is patented, and weaponized hurricanes is patented and researched for 30 years, okay? This hurricane stood still. It spun, and the energy left the eye of the hurricane and went into a directionalized arm. Okay, if you look at this bottom left photo, the energy jumped into the arm, was directionalized, weaponized, and gave South Carolina 1,000-year flooding. Okay? So, I was talking about HAARP a little bit, and I won't talk too much. It's a little complicated, but it's actually really simple. What they wanted to do was create an ionospheric heating technology. Ionosphere is part of the atmosphere. They wanted to put metallic dust up there with airplanes, heat it up with these antennas, and actually create a bulge in the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is like fire, right? If you can create a little bulge, then an enemy satellite or a nuke or something come by, you can make the atmosphere into a weapon, and that's where this Tesla technology was first created. And then they realized, well, what if we put this metal dust up there, we heat the metal dust to the exact temperature of our stealth airplanes. Then their radar technology and their heat-seeking missiles, you know, so it really was like a black ops Tesla technology that went into the wrong, well, the U.S. is the wrong hands. It went a little too far, and now that we're in a post-9/11 society where 40% of our military budget is black ops, the people signing these paychecks, they don't even know where the money's going. Okay? So what we have are these aerosols that spread out, they dissipate into this haze, and then the HAARP frequencies make these ripples. I'm sure you've seen these before. So HAARP, there's over a dozen of these ionospheric heaters around the planet now, but it started off in Alaska. And what it is this Tesla technology. Mind you, Tesla was a genius. He was pulling energy from the ether and even ideas from the ether, and his papers were taken by the CIA in the 40s after he passed away. They went black ops, and since the 40s they've been running with it, and this is what they've decided to do with it. Okay? And now these HAARP atmospheric heaters are all over the world. They're featured on the History Channel, and they're being used evidently to manipulate the weather, to manipulate jet streams, to cause drought in California for some reason when they should be utilizing it to make it rain. And where they put these HAARP facilities are on these ley line energy grids that are these energy grids around the world so that they can direct these energy currents and do a lot of stuff that's beyond my comprehension, honestly. But basically, we've got the media exposing it to us just enough through books and movies with Martin Sheen, and you've got literally, if you click the next slide, so see this image on the left, we've got these punches coming through in the sky from these directed antennas. So all these antennas get their electromagnetic frequencies and push them at the sky, and they create a frequency up there where they can heat the ionosphere. And if you remember the Weather Channel, you see these H's and L's. Those H's and L's all over the screen, those push the jet stream around. That is the weather. So if you can make H's by high pressure, by heating the ionosphere, you can make H's wherever you want. You can steer around weather and do whatever you want. You know, they know what they're doing. Okay? So, Nikola Tesla, may he rest in peace, he says that if you can control the resonant system electronically of the planet, which is an electrical frequency, okay, then you can directly control the entire mental system of mankind. Our brainwaves and even our hearts operate in frequencies. If you can mess with the frequency in the air, especially by adding a lot of metal particulates so that the frequencies can pulse through them even easier, and even add the metal particulates to the people's bodies, they can become like antennas, and you can really mess with their brainwaves and even control the resonant system of the entire system of mankind, right? Okay. So the patents tell the story, right? So when someone comes out with patents, it's not because they have an idea that they want to make something. They've made it, and they don't want someone to steal their idea, right? So in 1974, this patent comes out, rockets releasing barium into the atmosphere to create clouds. 1974. Barium is highly toxic. It makes those sundogs, though. Okay, 1975, powder contrail generation patents. 1991, creation of artificial ionization clouds above the Earth. Talks about electromagnetic radiation. 1991, stratospheric seeding for the reduction of global warming. Okay? As you know, when we start hearing about things, it's after the fact, right? Like the military has the technology, we see it, what, they say 15 years later. So here we are, 15 years later, and we're hearing about it, and they're pitching it to us as an idea, right? The patents were already out, and we were already seeing the lines in the sky right after these patents came out. Okay? We've even got aluminum-resistant genetics, okay? And this plays into the full spectrum dominance that Monsanto plays. Monsanto bought Climate Corporation for nearly $1 billion 2 years ago. Monsanto bought Climate Corporation for $1 billion. Now Monsanto doesn't even exist. They're bought by Bayer. Bayer's a Nazi company. They bought Monsanto for $66 billion, 600 million, 666. And Bayer is a very, very dirty company. If you look into Bayer, I could go on and on. But suffice it to say, you've got aluminum in the sky, aluminum in the ground. The plants can't survive because the aluminum disrupts the uptake of water. So you see these different tree die-offs. We don't know why. It's because the aluminum is disrupting the uptake of water into these plants. And now you've got patents coming out for specific tolerance to aluminum. So the only seeds that'll grow in this future environment will be Monsanto's. We've even got, the patents just keep coming out, and that's the thing. Enhanced aerial delivery systems. Large quantities of fluids and powders distributed by airplanes. Okay? The patents, if you do your research, they just keep unfolding and unfolding and unfolding, and they all detail what we're seeing in the skies. And they just keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. Okay? There's so many, and they all do not beat around the bush at all. They do not beat around the bush. They tell you, these are the chemicals we're going to use, and these chemicals are coming up in our hair, in our rainwater. Okay? They're telling us how they're going to distribute the chemicals into the sky, and we look up and we see them doing exactly that. All right? Again, 6 corporations own 1,500 TV stations, 1,500 newspapers, 9,000 radio stations, 1,100 magazines. Imagine the influence of a very select few. Okay? If they wanted to tell everyone one particular side of a story, they very easily can and do and will and are. We've got David Keith, Ken Caldera out of Stanford, and Northwestern University, and then this Al Gore character. Evidently, Al Gore going around telling us that the polar bears are dying, telling us that the Earth is heating up. He's actually going on the shows now saying that we need to... Yeah, he's going around in his jet plane telling us not to use fossil fuels. But the thing with Al Gore is now he's going on the shows, and I should show you this one as well. It's in my film, or it will be in my film, is he is talking about blocking out the sun as a fix for this global warming pitch. He's got the solution, okay? And basically they're saying that there's all these other estimates to save the planet, and they cost trillions of dollars. For a smaller amount of money, $700 million per year, we could take 10 airplanes and really do a lot of sulfur dioxide spraying in the atmosphere. The sulfur dioxide pitch is just their way of saying we're going to mimic a volcano, but the sulfur dioxide is just one of the chemicals. And their most effective way of mimicking the volcano is a means of getting the dust to stay suspended. And the sulfuric acid can't be resonated with the HAARP electromagnetic system to make it stay, to heat it up. So basically, the sulfuric acid idea has already been thrown out the window, and they already have the metallic nanoparticles that according to NASA, they can teach to bore into your lungs and put on sentient missions. They have the nano dust, metallic nano dust already up. They're using that instead of the sulfuric acid. But either way, next. So David Keith, he's pitching us this, they've got all these different terms for it. Solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, this SLAP they just made up so that they could slap the activists with this new term. When they talked about the 76 out of 77 scientists that came up with the research study, they came up with this new term, stratospheric large-scale atmospheric program. Large scale, yeah, either way, the slap thing is just stupid. So next. Sorry. Okay, so we've got this ongoing societal conditioning. It's not even just the news articles, but it's the films, it's the shows, it's even the movies, okay?
They're even doing it in the textbooks.
Even in the textbooks, they're changing children's books. They redid Jaws. What do you got to say, brother?
Pixar animated features.
Animated features, I'm going to go over that in the next slide. Next slide talks about, I think, the animated features, okay? This is HARP on the bottom left, okay? They're conditioning kids in 5 Goes West to HARP, the existence of HARP, okay? They've digitally reanimated, go ahead, brother. The video games have chemtrails even, and they've even digitally remastered the movie Jaws. Jaws before didn't have it, and now it's digitally remastered with lines in the sky to make you think that it's always been there, okay? So the major publications, now that they've conditioned everyone to thinking there's nothing to see there, to thinking that there's a problem, now they say they have a bad idea that we need. Okay? What is this bad idea? Well, geoengineering is complicated. It's going to be initially resisted. I wonder why. Who should do it? What are the consequences? Unforeseen. Well, I've got foreseen consequences, like you're going to block out the sun. You're probably going to mess with the entire ecosystem of the planet, you know? The food, the everything, the biosphere. So we've still got this Economist article that I like to bring up again because it makes me so mad. And just because of the photo. They say if all else fails, this photo could happen. This is something that they're already doing. And then they talk about the cloud brightening over in Ireland. They're even talking about it. This is a global thing where they're posing different ideas as a means to block out the sun to save us from ourselves. Mother Earth has a fever, okay? This is July of 2015. Mind you, all of this stuff is new. I talked to a lot of people on the streets, do a lot of grassroots activism, and a lot of people go, a lot of the same, I know all that, I know about chemtrails, there's nothing we can do, okay? The thing is there's a lot of new stuff coming out, and basically what I've learned is this is all a manipulation campaign to condition us. The past 20 years of chemtrails has been a subtle conditioning to what's coming, which is the blocking out of the sun. No blue sky days. I need to calm down, okay? So we've got Mother Earth has a fever, PBS, okay? Remember, we trusted PBS? The public, they represent the public broadcasting system. PBS, a cheap but dangerous global warming fix, okay? Now, why should the money have anything to do with whether or not they should block out the sun? And who in their right mind is going to read this and say, well, at least it's cheap? Like, seriously. Okay? A controversial but cheap solution has emerged: solar radiation management. Central idea is to make the planet a little bit more reflective. Okay? Guess who wrote this article? David Keith. Okay? For PBS. Okay? We talked about this guy. We hate him. So, the media. Gizmodo is just another random article, media outlet. Okay? But what I want people to understand is how informed people feel by the scrolling timeline on their Twitter, on their Facebook. This little news article, even if it's subconscious, it plays out how these people think, okay? Somebody saw this line, this headline. Somebody feels very educated now. Okay? And whether or not they're going to share this with someone or just keep it in their head, they're educated with the wrong information. And what this article says is that, surprise, the lines in the sky from the plane emissions, that don't exist, by the way, they have offset roughly a third of the global warming over Earth's land. So what they're saying is that our planet desperately needs a little more sunscreen, and we should be pumping aerosols into the air to shield our planet from the scorching sun. The scorching sun, okay? So we need to be happy that the lines in the sky have saved us from global warming, not the other way around, but the lines in the sky don't exist either, okay? And guess what Gizmodo also has to say? Chemtrails are bullshit. All right? So the same media publication is telling us that these lines in the sky are saving us by 1/3. Okay? So the Earth would be a third hotter if all those lines weren't there. So thank you, lines, even though you're not there. Okay? You see where I'm going? It's absolutely, and like, I want to put in the laugh track, but I'm pissed too, so it's kind of ridiculous. Okay, so the polar bears are fine. Okay? There's 5 times as many polar bears as there were in the 60s. Okay? There's been studies, and even though some places have melting ice, and some places don't, mind you, you do your research, and not all the ice is melting like, you know, these stories are cherry-picked. Even in areas of melting ice, the bears can freaking swim. The bears are fine. The bears are thriving. The bears are thriving. Yet the media, okay, they want you to think something else, okay? In the early 80s, okay, I could only find a little thumbnail image of this, so I got to find a better image of this. But in the early 80s, front page of the Time magazine, be very scared, global cooling, we're going into an ice age. Anybody who has gray hairs can tell me about this. I know all about it. I've got some gray hairs. I remember this. They were pitching global cooling, kids. So any of you kids in the room, they told us that we were going to be under a mile of ice. Okay? Be very scared. We're going into a global cooling phase. It might be because of your carbon emissions. You should feel really bad, anthropogenic global cooling, right? But then no one gave a shit. They were like, a mile of ice over my head? What am I going to do, right? This is true, right? And I even thought the same thing. I was like, okay, well, mile of ice, I'll be screwed. I'll just keep going about my regular day. So then a few years later, the media, be very worried, man-made global warming. Okay? This is something that they can actually make happen with their little H's on the Weather Channel and their ionospheric heaters and their Tesla technology and all this stuff. They can make it hotter, and they can cherry-pick this data and tell you the temperature is rising. 1 billion people saw this skinny polar bear. 1 billion people. Think about that. That's a lot more people than in the United States, the whole country, okay? 1 billion people saw this skinny bear because the media and Facebook and all those other social media outlets, they let the right things go viral because they're told what to do, okay? They're scripted. This bear saw 1 billion people, and everyone, when they get in their car and they start up their car, even if it's subconscious, they're killing the bear by driving to the gas station to fill up their tank, right? They're driving their kid to school, they're killing the stupid bear, okay? Seriously, think about it. Think about the emotional heartstrings and what they're really trying to get you to think, okay? So we've got this guy back in the early 1800s, mid-1800s he died, okay? Hegel, he's a philosopher. He created this thing called the problem-reaction-solution master-slave dialectic. It was so popular and picked up that they called it the Hegelian dialectic, named after him, George Hegel. Hegelian dialectic. And what this is a means of manipulating the public. The majority, not all of us, look at us, we're here, but the majority you can manipulate through this problem-reaction-solution scenario where you give them the problem and you already have the solution waiting for them because you've planned this out, okay? The problem that they're creating is California drought, okay? I witnessed this firsthand. They're making the clouds not drop rain, okay? They create the drought. They create global climate change, okay? They create global warming. Okay? The solution is a global carbon tax. The solution is man-made global cooling. The solution is blocking out the sun. So we know the problem. They've told us what the problem is. Okay? So for instance, 9/11, I can't believe I'm back. I'm not going to just keep talking about 9/11, but I'm sorry. And kids, this is actually really important. 9/11 is important. It's like the change of everything. Like even look at the music and stuff. Sorry. Okay, so 9/11, the problem, terrorism. Okay, what's the solution? Well, we have this thing, it's global war on terror. You can just give us unlimited military spending. We'll put drones everywhere, and we got it. We got it covered, right? They walked us through that. They walked us through that, and anybody and everybody knows that there was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Like they created the problem, the reaction was fear, the solution was there on the plate. So here's our solution, global carbon tax. So even countries that are finally industrializing, well, oh wait, we have a global tax for you based on how much carbon you emit to pay to us this, you know, who's even collecting this bill and what are they doing with it? And is carbon really the problem? You know, like these are questions that really need to be answered, but the solution is not a tax on carbon emissions. Okay? One more time. All right, this is very new to me. Okay? This just came into my life, and now I've got a new thing to devote my life to, and this is very, very, very important. If you have enough money to come to Chicago next year, I would even say don't come to the Global Chemtrail Summit in Portland, come to Chicago with me. But either way, if you can come to both, this is the most important thing that I've seen that humanity can even address right now. So Warren Buffett and Northwestern have created this platform saying that they have the exclusive rights to save the planet. They say that because I don't want to say white man, but because of our industrialization, because it's always like the white man thinks he can do whatever the fuck he wants. It's like, okay, so the industrialization and these rich people, they created way more carbon than the rest of the world, okay? And the rest of the world, their island nations are going to go underwater, and they're going to lose their sovereignty, and these Inuit tribes and these other smaller countries and stuff, they haven't done what we did, which is destroy the planet. So now that we've destroyed the planet, okay, through carbon, we now have the exclusive rights to save the planet. And that's what these thick papers, I have the papers out here, it's ridiculous, okay? And so they say that they have the exclusive right to make man-made global cooling because not only do they have the technology, but they have the money and the planes, and they can do it, right? And so they say we've got all these crazy patents, and so not even these thousands of patents that already exist. They say they have new technology, that they need to alter the patent law, that these patents need to be pushed through, that regulators don't understand them so they can't be regulated, so no laws should be made for these patents. Not only that, but they need to be implemented immediately because we have exclusive rights to save the planet, okay? These crazy technologies. All right, so due November 1st, I have a paper that I'm working on. I've hired a PhD to help me out, and we are going to be writing a paper, and I will be presenting at this thing on May 18th in Chicago. I will be there. And this is the first annual roundtable on global climate change governance geoengineering, okay? This is so freaking important. These people are meeting to decide how to make this regime, and the word regime is used 30 times in this 2-page document. Regime, okay? It says, what role will this is one of the papers, this is one of the topics. There's all these different topics you can write on. One of the topics is, what role will public perception and opinion play in a governance regime for geoengineering? Meaning, have we brainwashed the public enough? If we try to block out the sun, what role will public perception play? Okay? Let me translate this. If we block out the sun, will there be riots on the streets? Okay, also, given the ethical framework of the precautionary principle, should the development and use of the most potentially dangerous technologies simply be banned? They're asking, should we ban dangerous technologies? And there's going to be someone up there, David Keith is going to be saying These technologies may be dangerous, but we could save the planet. What about the other side of the coin? The destruction of the planet? This is so important, I can't even tell you. They're trying to set up a whole thing. So what does it all mean? We get it. I just talked about it forever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay? Resources. I like to point people to, one more time, these two websites. This is Patrick Roddy. I talked about his website. And then byebyebluesky.com, lots of information. So last May, I hosted the first annual Global Chemtrails Summit in Vancouver, Canada, downtown. Okay? This was on May 7th.
How many people were there?
We packed the house. 300 people, standing room only. The only thing that really concerned me is everybody in the crowd was 60 years old or older. Everybody, okay? Today we've got some youth. I really appreciate that. I hit social media so hard, I handed out tens of thousands of flyers. I got the front page of a newspaper that sees hundreds of thousands of people in Vancouver. I'd be willing to say that 100,000 people knew about this event. The only people that came were the people that had seen it long enough to know something was up, didn't listen to only what their phones told them to think, and thought that they could be the change because they'd seen it before. They came from a generation of civil rights activists. They came from a generation of bra burners who actually did something. So in that light, we need to get the kids involved next year, okay? In May, the kids will be there. I'm going to have a nice lineup of concert and whatnot, and we're going to make global headlines on that day. You have my fucking word. We're going to make global headlines on that day, okay? One more time. So Actual Activist is a site that I have. It's I just got actualactivist.com, actualactivist.org. That'll be launched in the next few months. But right now, you can like Actual Activist on Facebook. When I feed this page, it reaches, I have metrics on this, it reaches 100,000 people a day, this page, okay? Frankenskies, you can like that page. The movie's actually going to be titled Frankenskies. It'll be out in the spring. And Matt Landman, like I said, I've got 15,000 followers, and I'm not bragging. These are hardcore people who care. 15,000 of them, and it's growing rapidly, and I swear to God, if Facebook didn't limit it, it'd be quadruple that. So I'm going to end this, and thank you so much for your time. You guys are awesome. Okay, so I want you all to really, really, really understand this was not long ago, okay? This was so not long ago at all, okay? Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter, all right? One generation ago, we had Martin Luther King, we had Malcolm X. These guys, they stood up, they risked their lives, and they were the change. They made things happen, okay? We can and will do the exact same thing. Thank you.